My dad was incredible, had incredible values. Self-made, hard-working. You know, if I turned up late, where's your note, you're late? From his work ethics and his principles, that became the ethos of our business. You know, I think they installed some very good values, and I hope I've installed that in my boys and into our team. And I know we've got a good business, and I think it comes from that beginning.
My grandfather, who served for New Zealand in the Second World War, came back. He was an A-grade mechanic, so set up a wee mechanic shop there in the main street of Morrinsville. It was actually my grandmother who was, funnily enough, peeling the potatoes for the evening meal, and the potatoes allegedly fell on an advert, someone advertising to sell tractors in the Morrinsville region, and my nana wrote off and applied for the Ferguson franchise for the Morrinsville area. Guy turned up, I guess, to interview Pop, see if he was going to be the right man for the job. Unbeknownst to him, he told the guy to sort of leave, and he'd got the wrong person, and told my grandmother about it that night, and she said, "Oh, you silly bugger, I applied for it, you need to get in touch with this guy," and that's really how we got underway in tractors.
First job really at Maber Motors was coming in after school and sweeping the floor. That was from like 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock every afternoon, from probably the period of probably August through until about December, starting in 1972. Laurie was hell for leather. It was get it done now, or get it done yesterday preferably.
Had principles like do it now, don't talk about it. Let's make things happen. Those kind of principles I still believe are very strong within the group.
But he was extremely passionate about customers and making sure that everything that we did was customer focused on service. And I think it's really one of the greatest assets and attributes to power farming. Everyone knew that machine would break down, but it was how you dealt with it and got it fixed promptly.
Always at work at 7 o'clock, getting home late. No time for small talk, we've got business to run. And look after customers. If there's ever a problem, just fix it and worry about who's going to pay for it afterwards.
The one thing I always remember, he told me when I was in the workshop, he said, never ask one of your staff to do something you wouldn't go and do yourself. So I always put that in place. You know, if I have to go and wash a tractor or sweep the floor or whatever in my workshop, I'll go and do it. Just because I'm the boss doesn't mean I can't do that sort of stuff still.
You know, we got to experience being on the land a little bit with him, and then, you know, when we'd go into the dealerships, we'd always be given odd jobs and you know, holidays or after school or whatever it might be. You know, anything from weeding the back fence to painting buildings to working in the parks.
I know that talking to Pop in the past, a few funny stories about people literally trading in horses and him having to go down to, I guess, a stock agent or a horse agent to get rid of the trades as such.
Guys came in and said, would you trade some horses? And my dad said, you'd have a go at anything. So he traded some horses and had to take them to the sale yards to sell them. But on the way back, one of the farmers, my dad said, you need instructions how to drive a tractor. And he said, no, I don't need any instructions. Well, the guy came back wet through. About half an hour later, he'd come to one of the bridges and he yelled at the tractor to stop, like he used to talk to his horses. And the tractor drove straight through, and of course there was a car coming on a one-way bridge, so he went through the river. And he said, at least when I talked to my horses, they stopped, but the tractor didn't.
Laurie was a gentleman. He come round, he knew your name, and he spoke to you.
He was a very much matter-of-fact person. He didn't stand fools. I remember he'd come over to Morrinsville, he was walking past all the company cars, and if he found anyone's car that had the keys in it, he took the keys out of their ignition. When they went to go to their car at night, where are my keys? And they were told, you'll need to go and see Laurie.
Laurie used to hold a sales meeting every Monday morning, and my vivid memory of that, him going through all of the sales guys at retail, and they'd have their leads on a big whiteboard, and they'd go through the ones that were lost, the ones they got, the new ones, and that was a very meticulous thing every Monday morning.
I mean, he was a great inspiration for myself, without any question, and we work really well as a team. He was more pessimistic and I was more optimistic, but you need opposites. He was probably a great mentor, and my dad threw me in the deep end as a young guy at 21 and said, you need to manage a retail branch with 4 or 5 much older sales team. You either swim or you drown, and thank goodness I swam. Lived till only a few years ago. Great privilege for me to go back and tell him what we had done and what we achieved, and he was so pleased. And he was so pleased to see Craig and Brett, my boys, come through and seeing them develop. Miss him. He'd be so proud of where we are today, and I think, where we're going. Always ambitious, and we started in '78 in distribution because this market was two-wheel drive tractors, four-wheel drive tractors was a trend overseas which we picked up. I mean, New Zealand's a hill country market, four-wheel drive tractors which is just the standard today. And I think we led that market by importing tractors ourselves and then setting up distribution. Everyone has dreams, and if you haven't got dreams, you've got nothing. And we dreamt that we were going to, be successful, and we were, but I mean, whatever we thought we are, we probably exceeded that by 5 or 10 times.
Some cool memories. I remember, I guess, at the very start of power farming as a wholesale business, Dad had imported, maybe half a dozen Izeki tractors out of Japan. For whatever reason, we couldn't have those on the yard. They were a bit, under wraps before we launched them, and they were in our garage. I must have been 2-3 years old, and thought all my Christmases had come at once. Had all these tractors to play on. The kids over the fence had little toy ones. I had real ones in the garage. That was pretty cool until Dad sold them all, and they all disappeared. I remember being pretty upset and chased the truck down the road and sort of wondered where all my tractors had disappeared to. Dad would disappear and obviously spent a lot of time up in Japan, which was pretty cool back in the day. He'd come back with little gadgets and stuff that you couldn't get in New Zealand. Looking back on it now, he was away a heck of a lot, understand why. It's all that we know. When Dad was here, like everything that he's always done, he's a million miles an hour. But obviously, looking back on that now, he did sacrifice a lot to be away to make sure the business succeeded and to forge those relationships with our key suppliers. It's probably now you're sort of like, because I like to coach kids' rugby teams, that sort of stuff, and you sort of sit here and you go, well, Dad never kind of did any of that. But then there's a lot of kids whose parents didn't quite have the time to be able to do it. I think Dad often sits back and probably half of them sort of says, how can you afford all that time off work? At the same time is probably quietly happy that we can afford a little bit of time off work to be able to do those things, because he didn't get a chance to do them.
Even though I was running a strong business and doing stuff, and travelling quite a lot, I didn't feel disconnected in any way. Obviously, Mum was always there. School holiday meant travelling around New Zealand.
A wonderful trip to the South Island was me, Mum, Craig, and in a car sort of sitting outside dealerships, Dad sort of saying, I'll be 5 minutes, and 5 minutes
often turned into an hour or two. We did get to see a lot of New Zealand when we were young, and that was pretty cool, and we got to experience some pretty cool things as well. So we didn't know any other way, so I guess that's just how it was, and it was always thought it was reasonably fun. Waiting in the car got a bit boring, but...
And he's just talking and finding out things, and I mean, if you've met Dad, he certainly knows how to talk, and I think he uses that to his advantage. He's got this incredible ability to extract all the information that he needs out of you without you knowing it, which is pretty awesome. Obviously, knowledge is power in our business, and the amount he knows about what's going on in the industry is just because he simply gets out there and talks to people.
Had lots of ups and downs on the way. It's not always been smooth sailing. We had downturn in 1988 when the share market crashed and the governments here cut all the support for farmers overnight. To give you an idea, there were 39 companies importing tractors and machinery in New Zealand. Within 3 years from there, 34 of those had disappeared or closed their doors or amalgamated, and we were one of those 5 companies left, and we took over some of the other opportunities, and that's where we got into from tractors and machinery. Sometimes downturns give opportunities, but we've had some tough times. That's probably been our secret. We've got some great guys, and like Ken Bill, 50 odd years, but he's one of a lot of people that have been with us a long time.
52 years, yes, if you consider term spent 16 years at Maber Motors under Laurie Maber's reign. Kevin Stowers, who was the company secretary, would probably beg to differ slightly.
Well, I started power farming in 1981, and Ken started before me, but he actually left for 6 months for other employment. So I always claimed that I was employed for longer as a continuous period.
He had probably 40 odd years uninterrupted, so I haven't been the 52 years in full at power farming.
I started in 1979. It was a part-time job at Maber Motors. I came in around about the 20th of every month to help out with payables, and in those days I was handwriting out cheques.
I can remember Jim Stevens saying to me one day, he says, "Ken, how would you fancy going on the road?" I said, "Yeah, I could do it." And he says, "Well, you get no more pay, but you can take a van home at night." And I think really, I'm 68 now, I've had a vehicle for like 50 odd years. If I was 18 when I started that game, I've had a company vehicle, thank you Jeffrey and Laurie, for the last 50 years of keeping me mobile.
Ken Bill employed me on the 5th of December 1983. I started with the company and then went through my apprenticeship into field service. Then I moved into service manager, and then Jeff asked me if I'd have a go at sales.
Through a job advertised at Power Farming Wholesale, so I went across there, and the first person I ever met from Wholesale was Ken Bill. Had a good chat to Ken. In the end of it, he suggested I apply for a job at retail. Had been a mechanic and stuff, so I went and saw and met Jamie Odlum.
I think one of the best parts of growing up in the Maber family, being involved in the company, is that you were actually embraced with the family. If Jeff and Linda were heading to Australia and we were going to see a dealership or we're launching something in Australia, my wife Rena would be invited along as well. Jeff would treat you very well. And Linda, you were totally regarded as part of the family.
We went to Australia, took the family there, moved there for a year in 83, 84.
I mean, the first time we went over, we come out of living in Morrinsville, which, it's a great place, but it's a pretty small country town. The weather's not that great in winter. And then we carted over and get put in an apartment in Surfers Paradise and go into a school, 5 minutes from the beach. I mean, it was I was 8 years old. I think my brother must have been 5 or 6. So pretty cool adventure for us. I mean, the weather's good. You're running, your backyard's a beach.
We built up the Izeki brand, went very nicely, and got a phone call 5, 6 years later that they were going to stop building large tractors. They weren't making money. They couldn't compete. We had to pack up and come home. We came back with heavy hearts after that. I travelled to the US, my wife with 2 young boys were in their 4s and 5s. She allowed me, believe it or not, to have 6 weeks in the States to learn about growing maize. I couldn't believe the size of the market. I think today it's 350,000 tractors, and we have a market of 3,000 or 4,000 tractors. I only wish I was born in America, and here we are 40 years we are now, so that dream has now opened up, but it's a very big sandpit to play in.
That was a tough business because Izeki was struggling to keep up with Kubota and some of the other emerging companies. So we'd sort of heard about what was happening in Korea, and there was 4 tractor manufacturers at that time in Korea. We visited all of them, and we stumbled upon Coyote or Dadong. That was by far and away the best choice out of Korea, and looked for other opportunities were there, and Landini and McCormick had approached us about doing Australia and New Zealand. We said, well, if we can take Coyote and Landini and McCormick to both markets, Australia and New Zealand, being in Australia might protect us in New Zealand in the future as well. We'd talked about it, and I'd spoken to Dad, and he was like, well, I'm not going to move country, and I was like, yep, I'm keen to have a crack.
I had some very quick and direct experience with Craig, of course, because he was already entrenched in Australia and building up Australia, and very much in the mould of his dad. Great expertise at negotiating good deals for the franchise people and running the market.
I guess for over here it was an existing business. Over there it was up and coming, so everyone's putting in the hard yards to make it work. It did include everyone, yeah.
Because Australia was it literally was starting from scratch. We were in some small, premises, and we were really bursting at the seams a few times as it grows, but it started to grow pretty rapidly, and the franchises grew. It was really exciting because we were basically knocking on doors and setting up dealers and trying to explain, what the hell a Korean tractor was and where did McCormick come from and all this type of thing. And obviously there's been a few changes. Landini and McCormick, from our perspective, made some poor decisions and didn't support the product. So we really had to find a stronger partner, and that's when we talked with Deutz about being our main line for a larger professional tractor. And there's still a lot of those people that we started with in the early days that are still there. So it's still got that same power farming culture.
We moved quickly to appoint a couple of senior people in the company, including Bruce Nixon, who was the antithesis, I think, of Jeff Maber. Often I played a bit of a role in arbitrating between them, to be honest, but it kind of worked because they had complementary skills.
I was floating around in Auckland at the time, and a recruiting guy I know rang me up and said, there's this guy down in Morrinsville that you might be worth talking to. And I said, I'm not moving to Morrinsville, I'm not moving to anywhere. And he said, look, just do me a favour, go and talk to this guy. Long story short, next minute I find myself signed up and working for Power Farming, and that probably comes to one of Jeff's attributes. He's a great salesman.
Next thing I know, I'm sitting in his office, him telling me the English are pretty laid back and hadn't had a good run with the English, but if I was keen, he'd give me a go. Dramatic moments, we've had some hard times when things haven't quite gone as we thought, but overall we kept coming out smelling of roses, and long may that continue.
Yeah, it was a huge pat on the back to be offered the joint venture, especially the first one.
I joined as joint venture partner and dealer principal for Power Farming Morrinsville, formerly Maber Motors.
It's an opportunity that we wouldn't have had with any other company.
We're left alone. You may as well say Power Farming is a silent partner. I guess as long as we're doing our job properly, that's what it should be like.
The thing I'm most grateful and most aware of in this business and from the Maber family in that is their willingness to give someone a length of rope. I think Jeff's more than happy to let people find their own style and find their own way of doing it. It's not a complete free rein, like there's a severe amount of accountability, there's a severe amount of pressure when things aren't going to plan. He's an amazing man at breaking you down and building you back up again.
In 2013, we were at head office, and that's when we had a discussion around the joint venture partnership thing to buy into the business. Since then, it's just been onwards and upwards.
I had a conversation with Jeff about the opportunity, and I didn't really think retail was a great idea, but after talking with Jeff, he talked me into it.
Being a JV for Power Farming has been pretty exciting. It's been an adventure. Not every day has been the same day.
I think with the expansion into the States and Craig's expansion into that country itself, that's really cemented ourselves as a global player and a global distributor. You look at the likes of PFG Australia and PFG America now, there's a model there that works quite well with suppliers.
I thought if they applied the Australian model in America, it was such a big market, you would only have to get a very small quantum of that market to be successful. And I thought it was very brave, quite frankly, of Craig to give up what was a very successful business he was creating in Australia to take that on in America.
So I'm not convinced in my own mind the business would have been ready 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years earlier. We're successful in America because of the things we've achieved in Australasia.
I think on the back of a successful Australian business, seeing what we did there, Deutz have given us the opportunity to have a go at America, where they'd struggled in the past. The reputation for Deutz up there, why it hadn't succeeded, is the backup and support hadn't been adequate enough to support the business properly, so dealers had not taken it on board. We were under the assumption if we could handle that side of it and prove to the dealers that we could do that well, then the future could be good. And we found a premises, found some staff, started doing a similar thing to what we did in Australia 20 years earlier, and knocking on doors and getting told to piss off, and some people will have a go at you, and originally set out to go up there for 2 or 3 years, and we ended up being up there for 6. So it's good to get the family back down under. My wife's Australian, so this is home for her, and I've lived here since 2002, so really it's part of home for me as well.
It's gone from a New Zealand-based business with starting expansion into Australia, but it's now a genuine international business of scale and a very successful one.
There are room for private companies in this world. Most of our competitors, the Deeres and the C&Hs and the Massies, are big public companies and run their own dealer networks, and most of the companies, and you become a number. I think there is room for private enterprise. Well, we're proving that. Look at what we've grown. We're profitable. It's not a crime to be profitable. If you're not, you can't fund the business. We're investing huge amounts of money into new pasta facility in New Zealand.
The companies that we, same sector, same industry, a lot of those companies support the New Zealand market directly from Australia. We don't do that. We invest in New Zealand. We continue to invest in New Zealand, both at the retail level and the wholesale level. And the $8 million investment being spent across the way here for the new distribution centre is testament to that.
Have amazing facilities around the country, and we've got amazing people. We've got a training facility here in Morrinsville, so there's been considerable investment in not only the facilities, but we've got a top level trainer as well. So we bring all of the technical staff from around the country up to Morrinsville. This year we'll be doing 26 weeks of training.
Yeah, the other thing about the Mabers is being very successful, but the money gets reinvested back into the business. I mean, look at this building we're in. Look next door at the wholesale business there and the investment there. You go around the country or even offshore to America and in Australia. The money hasn't just been taken out and blown, all right? These guys have reinvested that money back into the business over and over and over, and the strength of that balance sheet is strong because of that. The secret formula is energy and passion and the will to win and having fun. Like Jeff has always said, we've got to have fun, but to have fun, you've got to win.
He's an unbelievable man, knows his numbers backwards from this year, last year, 10 years ago, market share, figures, profitability.
You can't not like the guy. He's very motivational in terms of what he's done, what he does.
Jeff's got a great philosophy. You need to enjoy what you're working at and what you're doing. And he also says, work hard, but make sure you play hard. So I think he taught us a couple of things. It's like, I'm always a bit of a joker. I see the funny side of life, always try to see the optimistic side of life. I think I learned that from Jeff. He is the born optimist.
Jeff, one word, motivational.
Well, I always say if Jeff was on the Titanic, it would never have sunk. He would have talked it up.
Yeah, and there have been many times when I've thought, you're crazy. There's no way you can achieve that. I'm way more wrong than I'm right because we might not get to that point, but we've gone a lot further and achieved a lot more than I thought we would be able to do. If Jeff had a choice between
selling one tractor and making $1,000 or selling 1,000 tractors and making $1 each, I personally would be ambivalent because they're essentially the same thing. But Jeff would choose the 1,000 tractor option every day because that's what excites him, that's what gets him out of bed. That, you know, and if it's 1,000 today, why can't it be 2,000 tomorrow and 3,000 the next day?
Generation, I'm the second, my boys, I'm proud of where they are. They're equally as passionate as I am to carry the business on. After we pass, I'd like to think that over the next, we have 2, 3 more generations continue, I've got grandchildren. It's their wish, not by design. If they want to come in, if they don't, we'll have to, import other people to run it. But we'd like to think the business is sustainable for the model and compete in the world, in Western worlds, and we've got plenty of opportunities. I'm an optimist. You have to be in this industry. As I slow down, I'm 75, arrived when the first tractor turned up, so I certainly was born into the tractor business. But after 75 years, I see myself, travelling, meeting our dealers that have supported so well. A lot of our key customers I love seeing. I have a lovely wife that supported me. I need to spend more time with her. It's third generation, I'm the second. My boys, I'm proud of where they are. They're equally as passionate as I am to carry the business on.
I work with a fine company. There's nothing about a Maber that will not, in the next generation again, they will still be selling tractors and farm machinery. The Maber family would have to be the strongest singular entity in New Zealand that is truly at heart and happy to be assisting and growing New Zealand farming.
He's such a big visionary of where we're heading and what we're doing. And that comes through with Craig and Brett as well. We're always looking to climb the mountain.
And Brett and Craig have obviously spent many, many years fully immersed in the business and learning it through osmosis, I suspect. I've been lucky in the last 20 years that I've had a ringside seat.
We're in good hands for the future, that's for sure.
Fantastic. He's the eternal optimist. He's the best motivator I've ever met. It's the Maber DNA that makes it work. And I think the company's in good hands with Brett and Craig coming through, and just watching Maddie at the field days, it's in the DNA again.
The grandkids seem to be getting involved. We saw Brett's daughter at the field days, hands-on and being a part of it, and she certainly looked like she was meant to be there. Family's not removed themselves from the industry or anything like that. He'll be walking around here somewhere today, and Brett's heavily involved, Craig's heavily involved. It's very much a family company.
And then, we see Brett and Craig both have this, I don't know, it's bred in them. That energy is infectious and it permeates right through the organisation.
That translates through the rest of the business as well.
It'd be really, really neat if our kids got involved in the business. They've got to kind of live their lives as well.
When the time is right, we'll certainly show them what we do, and if that's what drives their passion, then we'll give them some opportunity. But at the end of the day, there's going to be no pressure to go into it. I just, whatever their passion is, and we want to support that.
Depending on what path the kids go down, they'll find their niche and find what they're good at, and I think that in a certain size organisation there's always room for people to fit into that, whether or not they're tractor nuts or whether they're marketing people or, I don't know, accountants.
I want to pursue my dream of playing cricket for the Black Caps in Northern Districts, but later on in life, after I finish up my cricket career, I want to get into the family business, selling tractors, maybe work in the parts department and just get stuck in there.
When I stop and think about it, one family got to where they are, it's pretty amazing.
Very proud to be working for the Maber family.
So there's quite a long legacy. Being proud of the 75 years before means lots.
The resilience over time and the dedication and the courage to be able to make the moves that he has, it's something that you can stand back and be immensely proud of.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when you look at the whole picture, what's happened and what's gone on, and the fact that it's been running for 3 generations in 75 years and that's not very common, is it? It's a pretty cool thing, so I am pretty proud.
I can honestly recall my father saying that his job in the morning was to go out and put the hams on the horse so that his father could start with the cart and do the work on the farm. Before he died, I was able to show him on video autonomous tractors working in the States. And he says, I've never seen such a transition of farming in all of my life in his 90 years of life. It's gone from very archaic type farming to modernization. He says, where will that be again in another 50 years? What will you see, Ken? Probably not as much advancement as I have.
It's hard to look into the future because you don't know what technologies are in front of us, but if you look back, it's not hard to know that there's going to be some pretty cool inventions popping up, because you only need to go back 10, 15, 20 years and look how different everything is now.
When I saw GPS something like 25 years ago, I thought, I need to retire, I'll never keep up with this technology, but here we are. Things are changing, and we'll have autonomous tractors one day, and electrics and hydrogen, and those are the challenges we're faced with. But I think as a company, we have some wonderful staff that understand that and can adapt.
For power farming to succeed and thrive in the future, we've got to remain really focused on what our customers want and looking after them. Everything's going to be really challenging on farm. Well, we need to be a partner that farmers can rely on. I think if we focus on delivering the best customer service in the industry, then I think that power farming's got a really good, strong future.
They've really looked after farmers. They've gone bent over backwards to make sure that the farming communities, particularly, the Morrinsville community to start with, the service department and the parts, that's the most important part. Selling the tractors in the first place is important, but it's the actual continuing service.
I'd like to think that we're recognised as a leader in this industry. It doesn't always have to be the most sales or this, but it's leading in service and sales and backup and support. And I think what makes it is nothing nicer when people come back and rebuy from you and rebuy again.
And New Zealand farmers, they come under a bit of heat, which to me, I mean, we're in the ag industry, to me I find it crazy. It's like the All Blacks winning the World Cup every single year, and kind of certain parts of the New Zealand public are booing them off the plane with the trophy. Like it's really tough.
We need governments that support them. What they have to understand, we have to fight about moving our food from this part of the world to where the markets are, where the people are, where the populations are. I don't think farmers are looking for handouts. All they want is a level playing ground, and are being supported through tax systems and depreciation to make it easier to do business.
11-year-old grandson, and asking him a couple of months ago what he wanted to do when he grew up. He said he wanted to work for power farming.
All I can do is thank them for the opportunity and seeing something in me. And like I said, I hope we're repaying the chance they took on us going forward.
I'm absolutely thankful for being able to be involved to the degree that they let me be involved, which was quite a lot. So I'm very thankful.
Jeff, Linda, Craig and Brett and families, from myself and my family and my team, I couldn't be more thankful for the opportunity to come on board, to be a business joint venture owner with you, but be part of the power farming family and part of the power farming stories. It's been a phenomenal 12 years, and looking forward to another 12 going forward.
Loyalty breeds loyalty. Jeff's shown great loyalty to me. He's kept me on when things were tough. I've tried to repay that loyalty, but always thankful to the Maber family.
And of course it didn't start off intending to be 40 years, started off just as a part-time job to get a little bit of extra cash to travel. Yeah, I have got a lot to be thankful for.
Definitely say to Jeff, I really appreciate the opportunity he gave, because I was just some little nobody kid when he hired me, and I really appreciate the fact he gave me a chance and let us become what we are now.
I'd just like to say to Jeff and the family, it's just an amazing ride. I can't imagine being anywhere else.
I don't think I'd want to work anywhere else. I guess that's why I've been here for 23 years. To grow with you, to help it grow, just one little gear in the machine. It's it's a great place to work. I can't wait to see where it goes. It's and be part of it.
Opportunity to be a joint venture. Joe and myself have absolutely loved every minute of it. Yeah, look forward to the next 10 to 15 years before I tilt my hat and walk in the sunset, probably.
certainly give me that first opportunity to come into this industry, this sector, has been brilliant. And I've loved the 15 years I've had with power farming.
I really want to thank the family as a whole, having known Laurie, Jeff, Linda, Brett, Craig, given me an opportunity to have a crack at it and prove it, and just supported us along the journey and enjoyed every moment working with them. So thank you to the Mabers.
Jeff, thanks very much for the opportunity. We really appreciate it. Once again, thank you from me and my family. The opportunities that have been given to us from the Maber family and power farming have opened up so many doors for us. You couldn't ask that from anybody else in any other company.
And I think they provide a lot of opportunity for us. I would like to thank Jeff, Linda and the boys and Laurie for all the help they've given us over the years, the support. Thank them for the opportunity.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank them for all they've done for me over the 25 years. Yeah, definitely looked after me.
The opportunity to come to New Zealand has provided me with an opportunity to work in an environment which I still enjoy working in, but also on a personal level it's given both myself and my family an opportunity to grow in a lifestyle that we would not have experienced living in the UK. On that note, very appreciative.
I thank the Mabers first for being friends. You know, Jeff and Linda are wonderful people, and Brett, well, you know, hey, we just go way back, and we've kicked around a lot together, and I'm loving what I do. This is cool, and I will always be thankful for that opportunity.
From me and my family, I'd like to thank Jeff, Linda, Brett and Craig. I think we've had the most amazing 24, 25 years, but I think the Maber family have changed our lives for the better. We'd never have achieved what we did without the opportunity they gave us.
My thanks, I guess, to the whole family is allowing me to be part of this journey.
Well, I feel tremendously privileged to have been involved with the Maber family. It gives me great pleasure to have known that I have worked for such a wonderful family.
If I was looking at you right now, Jeff, and you said to me, would you like a job with me? And I would say yes, I would do exactly the same all over again. So I have to say I've been so grateful for the job, for the length of time I've spent, being allowed to work within the company as very autonomous on my own. You are not micromanaged. I think it's a great testament to the success of this company is that he lets you develop at your rate, and he does give you inputs, but he lets you make your own mistakes and your own successes. So I'd say, Jeff, if you asked me would I work for you for another 52 years, I'd probably say, yep, I would.
It's all about the people, isn't it? All of those people, like the Ken Bills, the Kevin Stowers was there from right at the start, and Jamie Odlin was there and came over to Australia, and Kevin and Paul and Debbie and Di, they've all been there for 20 years in Australia, and Doug Robinson and Greg Clark are there or thereabouts as well. So I think it's one of the things I think is key to success is finding the right people, and I wouldn't change our staff with anybody. We've got a great core of people that are part of why this thing has gone successful for many years. And
we've got staff that I've grown up with that I not only call some of my best friends, but work colleagues as well, and they're part of the family. It must be said as well that the amount of dedication some of our staff have to our business, the amount of time and effort and hours that they put in, I think a lot of thanks has got to go to their partners and their families as well, because I know what it's like when I've got to travel. I know what it's like when Dad travels. Power farming, although it's a great success story, it wouldn't even be a story without the hundreds of people that have played their part along the way.
Only could say nothing else, just thank you for what you've done. They put their life and soul in it, we support them, they support us, and I mean, hey, I can't do without people, you need people. It's in service, it's logistics, it's in marketing, it's in all the aspects of it. Privileged that where we are, that we have the chance to work with these guys. It's always a team thing. You can sell a tractor, but you've got to fix it. You can sell a tractor, you have to have parts for it. You have logistics, you have problems. That's how you handle the problem. Yeah, so a big thank you, a very big thank you.